Welcome to First Church Religious Science. I want to welcome all the faces that I can see on the Zoom board to my left. If this is your first time at the center, I want to welcome you. We're finding that a lot of people are watching us on Facebook and on Instagram and our rebroadcasts, and we're reading all your wonderful comments. Some of you want counseling. If so, then just call the number that you interact with Jimmy for. You can Google us very easily. You can see all of our contact information, and we'll set up an appointment for you in the afternoon. So let's start for this evening. Thank you for Celia for doing the opening. A few little things I'll start with. Again, we are First Church, First Center of Religious Science, New York City. We've been here for many, many years. And we're a New Thought Center. And Ernest Holmes was the founder of our movement, actually. And Raymond Charles Barker, who many of you might have heard of, was the person who founded the New York chapter. He wrote a couple of wonderful books. The one that some of you will remember most would be The Power of Decision, which is still in print and is a very good book. One of our most famous students was Louise, and she wrote the book You Can Heal Your Life. And I'm looking for a copy of it. Usually there's one right here. I'll present it to you afterwards. But You Can Heal Your Life was written in the mid-'80s, and it was a result of Louise Hay doing the work that she did here at our New York Center Church. And she was working with these healing ideas that were a part of her studies of the Science of Mind book, which I have in my hand. One of Louise Hay's unique gifts was she took some what some people would consider complicated material, and she made it very simple. In fact, she said, it's one of her sayings, she said it's all very simple. And it really is. It doesn't have to be complicated. Though, I mean, we have loads of courses that people could take for self-mastery and self-development. When you synthesize all these great books that many of us have studied, it boils down to many of the ideas that were presented in Louise Hay's book. Before I get going, gentlemen, the technicians, would you please get me a copy of that book? I'm sure it's over there. So tonight I want to talk about You Can Heal Your Life from a little bit different angle. I started with Louise's material in Florida in the late 80s, where I was facilitating a group week after week of people who were coming in every single week for healing. And I had two groups going each week. One was, thank you, for people who had just discovered the book. This is the book right here, You Can Heal Your Life. You'll always see it with some version of a rainbow heart or possibly a pink heart. So this book has been around since the late 80s. It fell into my hands during that time, and I somewhat got drafted into a class where I became the facilitator, though I never had any plans of being the facilitator. It just happened that the teacher had to move away. And when I was teaching this class, or really just presenting the ideas week by week by week, I really was humbled to learn so much from so many people, because people were coming in. There were two groups. One was for people who were impacted by AIDS. And Louise became famous for her work helping people with HIV. She did what were called the hay rides, where she met in large groups of people in New York and also in California, where she presented these very simple ideas that we talk about week by week. But again, her ideas, when I say simple, they're not so simple, because there really are a she's condensing a lot of the material that's found in the Science of Mind textbook. I want to say tonight, too, because we get all these questions, and no questions are crazy, but some questions repeatedly come around, like, is the Science of Mind Scientology? Does the Science of Mind have anything to do with that? And the answer is no. It's not. I don't know a great deal about Scientology, so I'm not going to comment about it, but I will tell you that we are not it. We are not that. The Science of Mind really is a culmination of a lot of new thought, Eastern thought, Western thought, the best philosophy. Ernest Holmes was thought to be a person who pulled it all together, and he wrote that book. And from that book is where Louise Hay got her information. Back to my dialogue here. So I became a facilitator of the book You Can Heal Your Life all those years ago. And I continued presenting the same material in school systems and in churches, spiritual centers. And this has been an ongoing group now for all those years, which God knows how many years it is, but late 80s till now. The information is very simple, but it's still so very important. So recently I was working on a new talk for a new workshop / Sunday lesson, and I was confronted a little bit with social media, because the whole thing with Louise Hay's work is self-esteem, right? And it's becoming more and more apparent to me the more I do my own research that social media is really impacting people in ways that we can't even figure out just yet. It's impacting people's self-esteem. And I know it, and I'm developing a lesson around it. And I thought, well, at least I'd introduce it tonight, because everywhere I seem to be looking lately, I'm getting more feedback about it. And then I'm reminded of a song that became a monster hit in America. And the year was 2012 or 13. And it went triple platinum in 2015. And you might be wondering what this particular song has to do with Louise Hay or the New Thought movement or a self-esteem class or anything going on in the iconic First Church. Because First Church has always been an independent center where we celebrate the truth that's in everyone. And what I mean by that is, in our classes, we very clearly, from the beginning, suggest that you're the person who has the power. The power isn't above and beyond you. The power is squarely, it's within you. And so we teach you that very clearly in our textbook and everything we do in the Louise Hay material as well. And we teach you that you have within you everything that you need. We teach you, like Louise Hay taught you, that you can heal your life. You can heal your life, you can improve your life, you can fix your life, because there's a power and a presence that's in you that's a part of you. And it's responding to you all the time. Ralph Waldo Emerson said that I believe it was he, it's wooing you. So there's this voice, there's this knowing, there's this thing that won't stop. You have an internal guidance system that's always attempting to get you on track when you're off track. And thank God, because otherwise we would run amok. So there's a part of you that knows and always does know. And my better teachers have said to me, don't say I don't know what to do, because there is that which is within you that does know. So, you can learn to rely upon that inner knowing or voice or whatever you want to call it. In different classes, you've heard me say it's the best kept secret of the ages. There was a Unity minister who always used to say that to me when I was probably in my late 20s. He says, it's the best kept secret of the age. And what he was talking about is this thing that we're looking for in all of our pursuits we already have. I remember when I was younger, I was on buses, I was on planes, I was reading every kind of book, and I was going everywhere. I wanted guidance. And So I was looking everywhere, and I'm sure some of you can relate. Some of you have been on different types of spiritual searches in your life, pilgrimages, spirit quests, vision quests. There's all kinds of names. I remember being involved in a lot of spiritual classes, and I know many of you have studied and studied the masters. You've done a lot of reading, engaged in different types of meditation practices. There are many, and taken every kind of course, read every kind of book. So if you've done any of that, you have company here, I'm sure. As I say, I took buses and planes, went off to far places to find answers, trying to make sense out of it all. And I will ask the question out there, I'll ask, have any of you done any of this? And as I ask it, I already know that many of you have been searching in your life. Eventually, if you stay with a place, if you come into a center like this and it resonates and you stay for a while, many of you come to understand that there is a power and there's a presence that's universal to everybody. And it has nothing to do with religion. So this power is going to be in the kid that's in Afghanistan. It's going to be the child that's in China or in the Pacific Islands. Or this power, this presence, doesn't know anything about religion. It's just there. The religion stuff is all made up. The power and the presence is a universal power and presence. And and every culture has evolved, and they have different takes on it. And we're not here to make anybody right or wrong. It's not what we do here. It's just I came out of we'll call it a tribe, right? My family emigrated from Ireland for the most part, and they came to this country, and they had a real tough time, and everybody comes from somewhere, comes from a heritage. But when you start right out, we're all part of this energy, this presence. So if you come into our classes, you come into the Science of Mind, you come into a new thought center, you start to learn about this thing that we talk about, this universal presence. And you really can't adequately name it, because some people will want to call it everything in the world, and you know all the names. And there's no name that really quite does it. From my studies in philosophy, I've heard people say it's that which cannot be named. There's no name that can properly do it for everybody. So it works better to think of it as a presence. Some people have said it's a presence that's never an absence. There's not a spot where God is not. And some of you don't like word God, and I can understand, because that word, for many people, is very loaded. But the thing is, if you can think of this idea of there's one power, one presence, and we talk a lot about oneness, and again, think, okay, that doesn't have anything to do with religion, and it's something that we all live and move in it. And we come into this teaching and we start to understand that it responds to us, right? This universal presence responds to us. It's available to every single person. It's just available. And the thing that's really astonishing, if you stay with this long enough, you will come to realize that this thing does two things. It inspires you, right? And then it reflects what you understand. So you're never in the same place with it. That comes from an idea I learned from a Greek philosopher. You can't be in the same place twice. It's not possible. You can't stand in the same river twice. It was Heraclitus, I believe. So this energy inspires, and it's the thing that sometimes it's like a divine discontent. I'm not happy because I'm here. I want to express more, and it moves you, and so we're all moving forward, and then whatever it is that is our understanding, we'll call it our consciousness, gets reflected in your life. So, if you were in a Science of Mind class, and this is like what we'd say a prequel to a formal class, you'll understand that, the law of mind is the same as the law of correspondence, is the same thing as the law of cause and effect. It's the same idea. Whatever that's living in the totality of my consciousness, that will be my thoughts and my beliefs and my understanding, that is being reflected in my world. So we do all our work in consciousness, really. When you come into a teaching like this, that whole idea of pointing the finger at other people and what they're doing and how they're behaving, any of that stuff, it's kind of like you're going in the opposite direction of where you're going to get your good. If you're looking to have the change that you want to level up and experience more healing, more joy, more happiness, more prosperity, more of every good thing, then the work is going to be done with yourself. So how does all this tie into my new subject of self-esteem and social media? That song that was, first of all, I'm going to say social media is becoming a big problem for people, especially younger people. And that mega hit in 2015 was written by and recorded by Lady Gaga, and it was "I Live for the Applause." I live for the applause, I live for the applause, I live, right? The way you cheer and the way you scream, for me, the applause, the applause, the applause. This is something that goes on in social media, and I've read all these studies recently, and it's just like the sense of approval that comes, or the sense of rejection that comes out of media, and the increased amount of time people are spending with it is causing problems for people. Louise had an objective or a goal, and it was to help people all around the world who suffer from low self-esteem. She felt strongly that we can heal our lives and we can have a great impact on others as we heal our lives. Some people wonder why we should spend that much time caring about what people say. And you get to a point, if you're in this teaching long enough, where you do become a little bit immune to the opinions of other people. That's people who've really done some work on themselves. If you've evolved enough where you know that what people say about you is really none of your business, then you've come a long way. You've evolved a lot. There's a lot of people who are all caught up in who likes them on social media, who approves of them. And they spend all kinds of time making their image look right. They'll go through Facetune and they'll do all these things to improve their image. And they want to perfect themselves somehow, some way. And why do you think people do that? It's born out of a need to have people say, thumbs up, you're looking good and all that stuff. A New Thought leader, Terry Cole Whitaker, wrote a book which was entitled, "What You Think of Me Is None of My Business." So that's kind of like a healthy mindset. What we're after here in the work with self-esteem with Louise Hay, Louise would say self-acceptance and self-approval are the keys to all positive changes. She didn't say how many likes you're getting on Instagram or who's following you and whether you're trending and how you're manufacturing your various profiles and presences and all that stuff. All of that's just the opposite. That's like I'm living for the applause, the applause, the applause. Well, that can become a national, I don't want to call it a sickness, but it's going the other direction. So if your focus is working on self-acceptance and self-approval in the now, that means you're trying to confront all the internal messaging that you've had during your lifetime, which might say, I don't look good, however I'm showing up, my appearance or how I'm acting is not okay. So as we move forward in New Thought, we're going more and more towards self-acceptance and self-approval. Now we're living in a digital age, I'm reading, I know, where things are happening at warp speed. And people are experiencing, I'm just learning this now, people are experiencing a lot of hurt, and they're experiencing a lot of rejection from the things they're putting on social media, from the responses they're getting on social media, and it happens fast. They're getting instant feedback. Part of what I was reading for this upcoming seminar I'll be doing is it's impacting girls a little bit more than boys. It's thought that over 40% of the girls in high school are attempting to lose weight because of the negative comments they get. I don't know who they're trying to mimic or who their role models are, but there's this whole sense of there's an issue with the way they look. The same person commented that a large number of girls think that everyone is silently judging them because of their appearance, their body image. And something like 6 or 7 in 10 girls believe that they're not good enough and they don't measure up in some way, including in areas of their looks, their performance in school, their relationships with friends, family members. There's been some research, I don't know how good the research is, but I'm just giving you some of my initial findings. There's been some research about this problem, and it's thought that over 60% of the girls, the teens, they'll even avoid normal daily activities, attending school when they don't feel a certain way or they don't feel they've got themselves together the way they want to. So I was digging more on self-esteem on social media, and I'm realizing, I'm understanding it's becoming a bigger and bigger issue. And it's not just the teenagers, the adults are sharing the problem too. And then the question was asked, and I'll ask you all, not that I expect you're all going to answer me right, how many times a day do you check your social media? You want to be honest about that. And 5 times a day? 6, 10, or once or twice. A national survey conducted by the Pew Research or Internet and American Life Project reported the number of adolescents online has increased by 93%, and so it's like huge, the amount of access and the amount of time kids they're not interacting with people in the flesh, right? It's like in the media. And the media is, in person, I see people in person, we act as people, but when it's images, across the world and all kinds of things, I don't know, if people are treating each other the same way. It doesn't seem like it is. They are. The average person is spending about 7-8 hours viewing social media daily. I don't know how that's even possible. And it's definitely impacting their self-esteem. Now, most of our audience tends to be of a middle age, I would say. Some younger, some older. That's probably not true for this group on this call, but I think it's true at large. People are spending hours that you just wouldn't think possible viewing social media daily. And it's definitely impacting their social media, not just nationally, but globally. Self-esteem is defined as confidence in one's worth and abilities, self-respect, and having self-respect. If people are spending most of their time on the internet, and they are, because today we don't open normal mail, we're reading our emails, right? And we're doing our research, we're Googling everything. We're instant messaging, we're blogging, we're reading blogs, we're reading other people's social media. We're following Twitter. Now we got a new chief at Twitter. We're the whole new world of Twitter that we're all, I'm guilty of it in the sense I'm in there too, and I'm reading all this information of just, it's like, there's a challenge here. So there's Twitter, then there's Facebook, and there's Instagram. And as a spiritual center, I have to admit, we spend a ton of time getting our messaging out via social media. And it's because we have an important message and we want to have it get out there. Our purpose is to get our message out. And we have 4 or 5 people working on our video, and we have people working our platforms, and because we want you to be on it. And the conundrum for me is, we want you to find us, we want you to enjoy it, we want you to find our messaging, and then I'm reading all this information, like, my God, people are spending it's like a whole workday on social media. I mean, that doesn't mean you are or I am, but it's a lot of time. So this large group of people, the reports seem to indicate, spend most of their days watching videos, viewing pictures of what people are doing. They sometimes are doing it at work. Their work productivity is, off. Their sleep is no longer what it used to be. Some people think that these media platforms are ways of staying connected in a world, the outside world, and know what's going on. But the author of one study says, but is it really such a good thing to be able to see what everyone is doing all the time, like in these reality situations? I mean, the whole thing is, I would maintain personally that you're here to live your life and find excitement about your life and what makes you happy. And I've done all these talks on trying not to be so other referred. And if so much of our focus is on what other people are doing, maybe it's time to come back and spend some time with ourselves in meditation. And there is that which is within each of us that really is connected to Source. And there's all kinds of parts of ourselves that, there's things that we're here to express. We're all here to express something, to grow, evolve. And maybe it's time for, a little bit more pause and meditation, and just try to allow Spirit to come through. We have done classes before, which one of the lead questions on one of the classes in the Q process was this question of, who have you come here to be? See, if you have more quiet time and you ask yourself some of those questions and you reflect on, first of all, who you are, meaning I'm a part of this God, this divine energy, and who have I come here to be? And what have I come here to express? These are probably very good things for any of us to do. If we get distracted with all the things that I'm talking about tonight, I think it might pull us a little bit away from some of these more, I would say, more important things to figure out. Most social networks, the study I was reading, are all about making friends and getting approvals from others. It's easy to make lots of friends online because you get to view their profiles and send them messages and start it all going. Most sites will allow you to view a person's age, what they're interested in, what hobbies they have, favorite foods, and all the things that you can make an assessment about. And the commentary is most people want positive feedback. They want to know if people like how they look and what they're doing. Social media doesn't only affect the way you feel about yourself. It can also affect, as I said before, your sleeping habits, your eating habits. Became, I don't know what the word was, shocked a few years ago when I went out to eat in New York a few places. And New York's an expensive place to eat in Manhattan. And I'm sitting there and there'd be couples and people, and God knows they must be spending $80 or $100, and they're staring in their cell phones as they're having dinner with each other. I don't get it. I mean, I truly think they would be better off going to the food truck at the corner and just buying whatever they're selling for $7 or $8. But so social media is something, right? I don't have the answers to it. I'm going to continue to work on it, though. The question is spending so much time on social media good for your mental health? Are you developing relationship skills? Or are you interacting with these little 4-inch glass or 5-inch glass pieces of computing equipment in your hands? Is it good for your mental health and physical health? Or is it lowering both? There's another thing. People are gaining a lot of weight. They're not getting out as much. Now, you could say that has something to do with COVID. I don't know the answer to that either. One of the studies also measured the reactions to profiles by asking people how often they got reactions to their profiles by anonymous users and how often they get reactions from people they know. And, there's this whole study on, how it impacts people, and it's a bit of an addiction in and of itself. If you're interested in learning more about addictions, we have a class on Wednesday night on that subject where we talked a little bit about this. And the suggestion would be, with this, like all we'll call addictions, do a little inventory on yourself and how much time you're spending in these areas. One of the recent studies, this is another one, after going through a series of tests, the conclusion was that with adolescents, self-esteem was affected solely by the tone of the feedback that they're receiving on their posts and profiles. Positive feedback boosted self-esteem, and negative feedback diminished self-esteem. So we don't want to be living for the applause. The applause is, so I guess I can shorten this up. Big part of the whole self-esteem thing with adolescents is about how they view their body. I remember when I was working with the Louise Hay material early on, many years ago, people had lots of thoughts about how they look being unacceptable. And that's also tied into how, you look how fashion is advertised, and people are, with these, they're very, very thin people wearing these incredible clothes and stuff like that. And, most people on earth don't look like that. And my sister always used to talk about a size 2. I don't know what a size 2 means, but you'd have to probably be a skinny little person to be wearing one. And you go down to, I live in New York. You go to New York, and not Madison, but Times Square, every image in the world is up there, and it's telling you, giving you suggestions of what you ought to be doing, smelling, wearing, and stuff like that. So these are things that we can work with. When it comes to our bodies, no two bodies are the same. Louise Hay would be advising us, suggesting, imploring to begin to love yourself however you are. I love, accept, and approve of myself. And my goodness, if you're 22 or you're 62 or 52, you're going to look different at every age, right? And if you're working it right, or if you're working it as a spiritual being, you're wanting to find ways to love yourself and approve of yourself. And from another discipline years ago, never, never, never criticize yourself. We got to find ways to learn how to love ourselves more. The conversation that's important is always going to be the conversation you're having with yourself. And if you're doing this conversation that you ought to be having with yourself, and by that, wherever I'm not feeling good about myself or what I look like or how I'm behaving, the healing activity will be done in consciousness. It will be done in mind. If I'm looking for the applause, or for other people to approve, then I'm doing it all backwards. And I'm really going to be suffering in the long run. And this is an epidemic in the country, actually in the world right now. So I thought I'd at least bring it into our self-esteem classes. I intend to study it more, refine it more, but I wanted to flag it. I learned, and I've shared with you before, from a very good teacher, probably 30 years ago. It was Dr. Bill. He says, you live in a time in history where you can commune with some of the greatest minds that have ever lived. You can really take some time. You can do it now listening to some of them through YouTube and reading, and you can contemplate great thoughts. And you can lift yourself out of so many situations just by aligning yourself with bigger ideas. That would be Emerson saying, hitch your wagon to the stars. But if you're living a life in such a way that you're looking to the right and to the left and to the screen in your hand for people to like you and respond to you, it's kind of sad in a way, because it's just backwards of what we're trying to do here. Louise would have said, and had said in many different places, books and writings, it's your own sense, it's your own sense of approval, self-acceptance and self-approval are the keys to all positive changes, and advise to stop comparing yourself to anybody. There was another study, it'll say the same thing. It was 112 undergraduate students. 2/3 were female, 1/3 male. Both men and women are impacted by on social media. Women impacted a little bit more, but both are affected. And it went on to go, I'm skimming through it. Most people compare themselves to unrealistic goals based off of media, like I already spoke of, and goals that are unachievable. So it comes right back to what I was saying before as the answers, self-acceptance and self-approval. I ended my notes for tonight. The authors of most of these studies say this situation is going to probably it's not going to get better. So if you want it to be better for you, then you've got to take action for yourself. That author thought social media is going to ruin everyone's lives, and no one's going to feel like they're good enough in their own skin. So there's got to be an answer. There needs to be a balanced approach. I'm sure I'll make it into a good talk someday. Social media is not going to go away, so we want to find a way to deal with it differently. We must find a way to teach people how to live with social media. I haven't found out the answer to that yet. And stop living for the applause. So that'll be it for today.